Okay, so have you ever had a time where you were sequestered? Okay, yeah, you probably are right now, right? During COVID. And maybe you gained that quote unquote COVID 15 that they're talking about out there. Well, today we're going to be talking about fitness and how you can utilize fitness in your daily life, even though you're at home. Maybe you're in your dorm, maybe you're like at your office and you're like, you know what, sometimes I just need to take a break. My name is Linda Sunshine West, and I'm excited to introduce my next guest to you, Sandra Blackie. Now, Sandra is she is a personal trainer. I was reading her initials. I don't know what any of them mean, so, but I'm going to say them anyway, which is AFFA. She's a sports nutritionist, NASN, with 35 years of experience. And she has taught at 3 personal training schools. But also, check this out. She is a retired IFBB professional bodybuilder, which is International Federation of Bodybuilding. We're getting ready to talk about fitness today with Sandra. So welcome, Sandra, to the show. I'm excited to have you here on the Women Action Takers.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I've been waiting forever to be one of your guests because I hear good things.
Oh, that's really good to hear. Thank you. Well, I'm glad to have you here because I've known you for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and we haven't really taken the time to connect. And this is actually one of my favorite ways to connect with people because I get to ask them all kinds of questions and I get to find out all kinds of things about them, at the same time sharing them with my audience. So first question I have is like right out of the gate, I want to know, how did you become an IFBB, bodybuilder? Like I'm showing a picture on the screen, we're in a podcast right now. People can't see the picture, but she is like all decked out, all sexy. And she's got this purple bathing suit on and she's got the oils on her. She's this amazing pose. And how the heck did you build that body? Absolutely amazing.
Well, I was teaching swimming in Montreal at the YWCA. And I've always been athletic, but I didn't know how to eat healthy. So I was kind of a chubby athlete. And when I was teaching swimming, our boss told us that we could take another class for free. And there was this woman, and she was muscular for 1981, 82, and she was beautiful. And she was teaching this class that said bodybuilding for women. Now, believe it or not, I already owned a weight set. I asked my parents for dumbbells and barbells when I was 13 years old, and I can't even remember where that came from because I'm almost 64 years old, right? So
right.
What 13-year-old back in the day would ask their parents for reader plates and barbells and things for Christmas? But I was that girl.
Well, especially girls, because really weightlifting, like back in the day, to kind of like paint a picture, my husband's 75 and he's been working out since he was 15. So it's kind of like the same, time, just he was 10 years earlier, right? Because he's 11 years older than you. And, working out or weightlifting wasn't like the thing yet. It wasn't really forward thinking, and especially for women. So yeah, it would be interesting to find out what got you into that at such a young age as a young girl.
Well, I've always been really physically capable. Like I'm going to brag a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, please do.
I'm nationally qualified in 5 sports. I mean, not currently, but throughout my lifetime, and professional in 1. So I've always been able to jump the highest and arm wrestle all the boys. And I was just perhaps naturally gifted. My sister's a Canadian national champion in kayaking, and my brother went to the nationals in canoeing. So between 3 out of 4 siblings, we were all national athletes in something. So there's probably a genetic component. So I got those dumbbells and barbells and I played with them, but back in those days I didn't have any instruction, and it's just a good thing I didn't hurt myself. But fast forward to the YWCA, when I met Paula, the woman who was teaching the bodybuilding class, I was just mesmerized by a woman with muscle. Now, she didn't have a lot of muscle compared to today, but it was striking to me, and I thought it was beautiful. And there were all these pictures all over the walls that were very inspiring. And I said, when she asked me my goal, I said, I want to compete as a bodybuilder because I was just so mesmerized. So I went to the first competition. I won. There were 6 of us in the show. I won a trophy that was taller than me. And then I went to the provincials in Quebec, Canada, and got my butt kicked. So I had to be a little more humble at that point. And that was around the time where I realized you need a trainer, you need to learn how to eat right, and et cetera, and so on. So I went back to school, and I have my BA, and I have my certified personal training license. And we have to renew that every 2 years. Just finished renewing it. And, bodybuilding was my thing. So initially, when I was a personal trainer, I attracted a lot of people, men and women, that wanted to do the sport of bodybuilding. But now, after 36 years, I train a variety of people. And being older, I attract older people. So my oldest client today is 94. And believe me, he's not doing the Arnold Schwarzenegger workout. He's doing things that are more what we call functional training.
Well, I was going to say is as we get older, I'm 57, right? I'm approaching that 60 mark right there. And as we get older, our bodies change. Our bodies are always changing anyway, even from you go from a little kid to a toddler to they're changing. But as we get older, we lose testosterone or estrogen. There's everything changes, the physiology changes, so our workouts have to change. And so and that's awesome. He's 94 years old, and I want to guess that probably one of his goals is to be able to be upright. My goal is to get out of bed and be upright and be able to walk around and play with the probably great grandkids or something, at 94 years old.
You've got it spot on. It's, getting in and out of a chair, being able to walk up the stairs, being able to reach down and play with his dog, and he is a little hunched over, but, at the end of each session, he's a little more upright. And I keep telling his wife, stop letting him sit in that chair where he's got his head down in a book. You need to give him a tray, because he kind of undoes what I do with him to a certain extent.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I love it. How did you get into working with, seniors and, was there a point there where you were like, you know what, I think I want to work with seniors, or did you add them on? Did you move everybody else out? What process did you go through of coming up with that?
It was more of a natural transition. The more I moved out of competing, meaning the less competitions I did and the older I got, and the more education I acquired, because I'm a big education geek. I do my continuing education every 2 years. And I just really love the human body and nutrition. And we have so much control over our health and over our aesthetics and over our energy than most people want to believe. But there has to be a commitment. So I've just naturally moved away from competing into a body that's fit, but not as muscular. And people just tended to be attracted by the longevity and the fact that, after my athletic career, I didn't let my body go to hell in a handbasket kind of thing. So the feedback I get is I trust someone who is older to work with me because I'm older, instead of somebody who's maybe just got their personal training certificate and they've got a year of experience and they're 21.
It makes a difference because having that experience, but also living part of that experience, it really does help. It helps us to connect better, to understand what they're going through, whatever the mindset is and stuff. Now I want to talk about, so you've been into this since you were 13, but I want to talk about today. So not you yourself, but just talking about, here we are, we're, in the 2000s, like we're in the 21st century, and we're living life. We understand a lot more about nutrition. We understand a lot more about, physical exercise. But let's say you're a person who is listening here right now and you're like, I don't want to be a bodybuilder. Like, why would I want to do this kind of stuff? So let's talk to that person. I want to hear what you have to share about the person who's thinking like, I don't want to go that far, but what can I do to just become fit?
Well, there's several components of fitness. And let me just start with the resistance training or weight training, lifting weights. That looks like aqua fitness, pushing the water, pulling the water. That's weight. It could be a push-up, body weight exercises. There are different tools like rubber bands and TRX and machines and dumbbells and barbells. I firmly believe that adding resistance training to anybody's workout is part of the fountain of youth and keeping your metabolic rate elevated, because muscle is metabolism. And here's the thing. Many people, especially women, think that their body just automatically deteriorates during menopause. Now, there are some medical conditions associated that might give the impression of that, but menopause is a natural transition. And if we're exercising and drinking water and keeping our stress levels down and eating foods from Mother Nature and adding resistance training, we're not going to have the same symptoms as the overweight person who's sedentary, who's eating a lot of processed and refined foods. So
Okay, you
adding
just
resistance
described me.
training,
You just described me. Probably millions of Americans.
yes. Well, we're a country that's 68% overweight and obese.
That's it? I'm surprised it's at only 68%.
And that's pretty high, because if you divide 68% by 2, half of that is the overweight population and the other half is obese. There are a lot of reasons why people get themselves in that state. But what I want people to understand about resistance training is it's not just to make big muscles. It's to make toned muscles, functional muscles, stronger muscles, being able to hold yourself upright. And I mentioned that it increases metabolic rate because muscle is metabolism. That means that if we're both 150 pounds, but one of us has more muscle than the other, that person burns more calories. So I would tell the listener to consider some form of resistance training as part of their fitness plan to keep their muscles from deteriorating through the aging process. And that starts around 30 years old. It's not when we
Oh,
hit
wow.
menopause, not when we're older, where our body is either in growth or deterioration. So let's say at a young age, we're born, we're in growth or deterioration. It's not like our cells magically halt anywhere. We're always changing, like you said earlier. So resistance training is huge. It's also good for bone density, and it's definitely very helpful in keeping osteoporosis at bay.
What I found interesting that you said there is you said we are either in growth or deterioration. It's like there is no in between, like you said. And that's an I've never heard that before. So thanks for sharing that because it totally makes sense. So right now at age 57, what are my options? Am I in growth or deterioration? Probably in deterioration, but that doesn't mean to give up.
Absolutely not. I mean, I have
Yeah.
a lady that started last year at 72 years old lifting weights with me. Now, that's not all we do, and that's not all I teach, but that's part of what I teach, and it's a big, important part of what I teach. So she's kyphotic, meaning that she's got that hunched back, and it's difficult for her to hold herself really upright long term, but she's better. She can sit upright in a chair and brag to me, hey, I had tea with a friend and I sat upright the whole time. And I couldn't do
Oh,
that before. Or she'll
that's
tell me
awesome.
things like, when I walk my dog Skippy at night, I'm less exhausted because they do a mile every night. So
Skippy
she's
is good.
noticing this change in her body. Now, she's not buffed. She doesn't have visible muscle. We're working with 6 pounds to 9 pound dumbbells and some rubber band resistance, but a lot of mobility and a lot of stretching to get her mind muscle connected with that upright posture. She's doing
Well,
great.
that's awesome. Well, how did, because during COVID, first of all, before COVID, were you already working with clients virtually or did you only start doing that after COVID?
Well, during COVID, I had one client, and it was my 73-year-old lady I'm talking about, who got real nervous, and I trained her by Skype. She just angled her laptop in the right position so I could see her, and I would guide her with my voice. And after a while, once she felt a little bit more comfortable, she just said, well, come to my house and wear a mask. So to be honest, throughout the whole COVID thing, most of my clients that have been regular with me for a few years trusted that I wasn't out partying in large groups of people, attracting germs my way. And they kept up their fitness. Now, in one case, I wear a mask, the gentleman client wears a mask, and I'm 6 feet away from him. I do what my clients ask me to do. I want my clients to feel safe, and I want them to be fit, because a lot of people are sitting down a whole hell of a lot more than they used to. And it's,
Yeah,
there's an expression, you might have heard this one: sitting is the new smoking.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah,
Uh-oh. I don't
they,
smoke, so this is not good.
13 studies that I've been exposed to in my continuing education where they talk about people who sit 8 hours a day are shortening their life, similar to the smoker and similar to the obese person. So that's not me making it up. You can
Now,
look.
let me ask a question on that. Is that 8 hours in an entire day, or is that like 8 hour stretch, or what? I know I'm getting a little into the
Hours in a
details.
day sitting down, whether it's 4 hours here and 2 hours there and 2 hours there, still
Wow.
makes it 8. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And I'm sure some are sitting way longer than that. Some days I sit way more than 8 hours.
And
Because working from home, I'm not getting up like I used to.
some of the simple things that happen when we sit, besides that big ugly picture I just painted, most of you, um, when we sit down, most of the time the inside of our chest muscles get tight because we may not notice that we're slumped forward. So the area around our chest and front shoulder gets tight. That increases that kyphosis, that hunchback, because whatever side of the body is short and tight, the opposite side of the body is long and weak. So sitting hunched over a
Uh-huh.
computer actually promotes that kyphotic curve in the spine. That's not a pretty look. And over a period of time, you see these elderly people hunched over and then they're lifting their chin, and there's so much pressure on the back of the neck. So with the elderly, I do work a lot on stretching the front and strengthening the upper back muscles to keep them upright. Then if you analyze what's happening with your lower body, the hips are in a flexed or bent position. So if you're short and tight in the front of your hip joint, guess what the booty's doing? Long and weak muscles. So for the sitter, when I take them into the fitness environment, I'm paying attention to those things because I can do fitness tests that show me the strengths and weaknesses of the body and program accordingly.
Wow. Sitting is the new smoking. I think that's the title of our podcast episode. Wow.
You gotta
That's,
get
that's,
off
oh
the
my gosh.
butt.
So there's options. There are things that you can do, and that's to, build up the strength, the muscles. You don't have to hire a fitness trainer, but getting one is helpful. Definitely doing that. Yeah. So, how did you get into doing the personal training? Because you were doing it for yourself at the beginning. You got into it because I want to compete. How does that morph into training other people?
Again, it was kind of a natural transition because the way I looked attracted people toward me asking questions about, well, your arms are really, really toned. How can I get toned arms? And then they talk about the tricep, the back of the upper arm. I had somebody call them angel wings.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And one of my trainers called them, you got Aunt Blanche arms. I guess he had an aunt, and whatever she would write on the chalkboard as a full picture, her triceps were waving in the wind.
Oh my
But
gosh, Blanche arms.
yeah, so people would just ask me questions like, how do I? And one of my girlfriends said, Sandra, you always stop and answer these questions, and you're basically giving away all this information for free. I wouldn't have the patience because a lot of people, when they get something for free, they don't do it. Why don't you become a personal trainer? Now, keep in mind that this was in the 80s and it was in Canada. And personal training was not a big thing back then. It was just starting. So I went to a meeting to learn what a personal trainer actually was at a gym. Somebody came up from New York City to teach us Montrealers what the personal training industry was. And that particular gym that had this guest speaker was the first gym where personal training in Montreal became a thing, as far as I know. And I was one of those people.
Wow, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
now
I
it's a
love
big
it.
thing.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times the things that, people are doing today, for their business or what have you, it was kind of a fluke because people were noticing that, wow, you do this really well. Can you help me? Or you do this really well, what can you do for me kind of thing. So I love how it morphed into that. And you've been doing it for how many years? 30, you said 30 plus years.
Yeah, 36.
I don't see you stopping anytime soon.
No, no, I actually wrote that in a post recently. I
What was
joined
that?
an
I'm not stopping anytime soon.
yeah, I joined this fitness enthusiasts over 50. And I just wanted to introduce myself. And I said that I used to be a bodybuilder, but now I train 3 times a week. And I'm not stopping anytime soon is what I actually wrote, because it is the fountain of youth. I feel strong. I'm going to be 64 in October. I feel powerful. I'm building a bookcase. I lift heavy things up the stairs. I can climb Cal's Mountain in 35 minutes, and these are things that have to do with consistency, because a lot of people my age, maybe they are more into working behind a computer. It's not impossible. Everybody can have more cardiovascular fitness. Everybody can be more mobile, more flexible. And resistance training is not all I teach. We stretch. There's cardio, and it's all very goal oriented. There's nutrition that we have to address, because that's the fuel that you put in this beautiful machine, this only house you have to live, to make it go.
Yeah, and you get only one chance at it. That's for sure. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what
But,
I what I love to do, what I'd love to do is ask you, like, here's my final question, and that is, what is one action step our audience can take today, tomorrow, or next week to change their personal and or professional life?
can I do two? One for nutrition, one for exercise?
Okay, we'll do like a 1A and a 1B.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you're not moving at all, I would suggest that you have a few sessions with a personal trainer to assess your posture and your mobility, to be able to create some kind of exercise program that's goal oriented in an area of fitness that you enjoy. There needs to be some education there for most people. Doesn't mean that you have to pay somebody 3 times a week for the rest of your life. But if you go at fitness from an ignorant place, and I don't mean ignorant as in stupid, but just a not knowing place, there's a potential for injury, or maybe wasting time a little bit. So I think it's important for people to be educated, in a nutshell. The 1B, nutrition is key. So you could do all the exercise on the planet Earth, do it perfectly, do it consistently, be very goal oriented in your exercise. But if you're eating at Pizza Hut and McDonald's, your efforts may not show. You may not be maximizing your potential. So here's the thing. We need to eat more foods from Mother Nature as a country. We need to eat things like fruits and vegetables, natural starches and grains like quinoa or sweet potatoes. We need our lean animal proteins like salmon or chicken breast. We need to cut out all this man-made, processed and refined fake food stuff, because that's where the disease is. This is not efficient fuel to the machine.
Okay, now, do you ever have anything that's not fruits, vegetables, lean meats? Do you ever like have a
You mean
treat?
a treat?
Yeah.
Yes. And I teach my clients, I tell them, we all deserve a treat. However, we don't call it cheating.
Mm.
So if you're eating clean and healthy 80-85% of the time, yet you want a treat, this is what I do. And I've done this in my own head for years. I give myself permission. That negates random eating. So I'm giving myself permission to give myself a treat. I'm going to quantify and visualize what this treat is. So if I want 1 scoop of chocolate peanut butter Haagen-Dazs ice cream in a cup, I'm creating a contract with myself. I am keeping my word to the most important person, myself. So I'm not going back for seconds because I just lied to myself or negated or disempowered me. I have to keep my word. So I give myself permission. I quantify and visualize what it is. I stick to that. I eat it 100% guilt-free. And then I get back on track at my next snack or meal with foods from Mother Nature.
Ah, I
It
love
is
that.
easy, but
I
you
love
have
that.
to fit the process.
Yeah, that's awesome because it's, having that contract with yourself. And, the thing is that, you are going to be with you forever until you take that last breath. And so what kind of things are you telling yourself? Are you setting up contracts and breaking them? Or are you setting up those contracts and keeping them? It's really up to you what you're going to do about it. So that's amazing advice. I absolutely love it. You guys, I want you to follow Sandra on Facebook. She's at Freedom of Fitness. On Twitter, she's at Sandra Blackie, and that's Blackie. And then she's also on LinkedIn at Sandra Blackie. Then you can also find her website is freedomoffitness.com. And she's giving away a free 30-minute consultation to all of her first-time clients. So go to Sandra at freedomoffitness.com or text her at 619-977-5779. And I love it. Has a bunch of sevens in there. That's really cool. But go join her over there. You'll get that free consultation, find out how she can help you. When we get older, things are going to happen. Our bodies are going to change. But what are we going to do along the way to make it so that we can preserve our bodies as long as we possibly can? This temple that we're given, how are we going to treat that? Go reach out to Sandra and find out how she can help you preserve your body so that you can live your life to the best of your ability. Everybody have a great day. And thank you so much for attending the Women Action Takers podcast. Bye-bye.